Bandwidth for changelog is provided by Fastly. Learn more at fastly.com.
I'm Wally Quevedo, and it is go time.
It's Go Time, a weekly podcast where we discuss interesting topics around the Go programming language, the community, and everything in between. If you currently write Go or aspire to, this is the show for you. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Go Time. Today's episode is number 41, and our sponsors for today are Backtrace and the Ultimate Go Training Series. On today's show, we have myself, Eric St. Martin. Brian Kittleston is also here. Say hello, Brian.
I'm the assassin.
The assassin. And we also have Carlicia Pinto. Say hello, Carlicia.
Hi, everybody.
And our special guest for today is an engineer with Apcera working on NATS and also a speaker at GopherCon this year. Please welcome Wally Quevedo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
So I guess just to kind of get started a little bit for those who may not be familiar with you personally, we'll start there, kind of who you are and the things you're working on. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about NATS and what it is and kind of the use cases it solves.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Valdemar, but most people call me Wally. And I'm a software engineer at Apcera, and I do development of the Apcera platform, which is an organ container orchestration solution. And also I'm one of the core maintainers of some of the official NATS clients. Mostly maintain the Ruby original clients. There's a new pure Ruby client that's getting some traction, and the Python clients, both for Python 2 and Python 3. So yeah, this is a little bit of who I am, quick intro.
So a lot of polyglot stuff, trying to maintain all the libraries for the different languages.
Yeah. So yeah, and even though the NATS project originally started as in Ruby, the canonical implementation these days now is the Go client. So yeah, Go is a very important part of the project because it's the one that we try to keep as a reference implementation that whenever you have to it's basically the spec that you have to implement for each one of the different languages if you want to call it like an official client, right? So yeah, I like Ruby a lot. I use it since I was originally got into the NATS project through Cloud Foundry, where it was being used as part of the control plane. And we were one of the early adopters at my previous company in Japan. It's a huge e-commerce website. So yeah, that's where I started getting into the project. And it's been really cool seeing how the NATS project has been evolving thanks to the Go community as well.
Let's start talking about the purpose behind NATS. I understand that NATS came out of Cloud Foundry and it was the control plane for all of the components inside Cloud Foundry. What purpose did it serve, or does it serve inside Cloud Foundry? What's unique about NATS that makes it so good for that control plane?
Yeah, it was a piece that would allow you to do the internal communication throughout the platform. So I think for Cloud Foundry, it was fit really well because it was simple and resilient enough for the type of communication patterns that you would have inside of that type of architecture. We ended up having a cluster of around thousands of machines. And even though it was still the Ruby version, it was simple enough to operate for the kind of communication that you were doing for Cloud Foundry. And I really like the simplicity of doing operations with NATS, and it just fit really well for the type of usage there. Just fire and forget, request response, basic communications for starting applications, and some heartbeats for fault tolerance, for example. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, one of the things that I hear very frequently is that NATS is pretty bulletproof. And I just saw a tweet maybe yesterday. A person was talking about their infrastructure and how they had to update a bunch of things. And when they were messing around with the servers, they noticed that NATS service hadn't been restarted in 9 or 12 months or something like that. What is it about NATS that makes it so resilient? Because it really seems like that's a very common message I hear, is that it's hard to kill NATS.
Yeah, so yeah, I like that from Nats a lot. As a person that was operating at these large clusters that where they having an uptime, having everything available, so critical. I like that confidence that it was going to be basically around and available for the components to be able to communicate. And so I guess it is because well, the simplicity of how it does much less, I think, plays a big part here, and also because this whole like it tries to protect itself from bad actors within the system, right? So if you have maybe like a client that is trying to do some harm, the server will like basically take out the connection, and other clients would be still be allowed to communicate and basically not be impacted by these other parts of the system, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, it is true. I mean, like at the beginning, for example, like the original Ruby implementation didn't have like clustering from day one, but it was still possible, for example, to do basic failover scenarios with Nats, and the recovery was pretty fast still. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's well suited for that kind of use cases, and it really does stay up for long periods of time. It's very difficult to crash it. I've managed to crash it like a number of times, but it was by making like these weird clients trying to attack it, basically.
Mhm.
And but those are all fixed now. But yeah, I like finding these weird corner cases with the buffers from the NAT server where you could make it crash, but they have all been fixed. They're all been mastered. So yeah, if someone managed to make it crash somehow, that would be fun to look at.
You mentioned the original implementation in Ruby.
Yeah.
I'd love to go there. And were you there when that happened? Were you already up, Sarah?
No, before I was I was living in Tokyo for around 5 years, and that's where the Cloud Foundry was originally implemented. And yeah, the company I was at, they were looking for basically like a platform as a service kind of system, pretty much like what Heroku worked for, but like for internal for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, Cloud Foundry was just released, and that the same year where we were looking at some solution. So yeah, there was not like Kubernetes in those times, and yeah, we were one of the early adopters in Japan for Nats.
Because what I wanted to ask is how much you know about the transition, the motivation behind the transitioning from Ruby to Go. Were there benchmark tests? Did they consider other languages? What was it that made Go the choice to transition into? What kind of problems were they having that they felt they needed to port at all to another language?
So it's worth mentioning that the original server was also written an event machine. So yeah, I mean, like a good reference for this is the talk from GopherCon from Derek. It was the original. I mean, it wasn't from the first GopherCon 2014.
It was.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, he spoke at the very first one.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, this year is going to be my first GopherCon. I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice.
And yeah, but Derek explains like more in detail, like why Go was really a good fit.
Can you share with us some of those reasons?
So yeah, I mean, like the Go is great for these kind of systems. I mean, the performance is of course one of the big gains for Nats. I think the original server was you could get it at most like 150,000 messages per second, but for the NAT server is up to the millions, right? So even though the original Ruby server was already like the protocol itself has not changed at all, and you could get much better scalability with the Go-based server. Of course, there's a whole like a built-in concurrency that also like Ruby didn't have. Well, still have some issues there, and also the small binaries. I think were a huge factor in a compiled language where you can have a small binary was a big plus here. That's why we can have very small Docker image, for example. It's like a few megabytes too. So yeah, I think that's some of the big pluses for Go that Nats has benefited from a lot.
Nice.
One of the questions I have about Nats in general is
Yes.
that I find the sales pitch for Nats is a little muddy.
Uh-huh.
You know, when you look at the Nats website, it says it's it's the dial tone for your servers, or it's a communication platform. But a lot of the benchmarks that they list on the website are about messaging, like message queuing. But Nats also does fan out messages, and it seems like it does like a request reply, almost like an RPC pattern.
Yeah.
What is Nats? What is Nats? Help us out.
Okay, so Nats is a high performance messaging system that you could use as a transport to be able to communicate with clients that connect to it, right? And I mean, it's like pure publish subscribe messaging system, but on top of this basic pops up, you could do also basic request response for type of like RPC use cases. So yeah, that's what I would describe Nats. Actually, one of the very nice, concise explanation from Nats is from Ivan from the Nats team describing like someone was complaining that Nats server was sending duplicate messages. And Ivan in the issue describes that basically when it receives a message, and once it receives a message, it sends it directly to anything subscriber that has shown interest into something. It keeps it in a buffer for 2 seconds, and it's going to be waiting for some client to be able to guess these bytes in order to communicate by draining that socket, right? That's in a very small explanation. It's basically what Nats is, like to communicate among these many clients very fast.
So I think it has the notion of persistent messages too, right? Where if the client goes offline, the client can reconnect and kind of consume any messages that it might have lost.
So Nats itself does not. I mean, Nats it is just a like fire and forget. You can publish messages for any subscriber. They have to be connected into a stable connection to be able to receive those messages, right? If they're not around by the time those messages get published, then those messages will not be received. But so yeah, that was the persistence of messages was a big ask from many users. And now there is a Nats streaming, which basically enables for that kind of like a message redelivery use cases where you do publish messages into a queue, and then you can have the consumers basically pulling these messages at their own pace. So yeah, for the persistent use cases, there's another tool named Nats streaming, and those give you the redelivery kind of like message replay kind of features.
From my understanding, Nats streaming is a whole lot like Kafka, where you can just go back and say, give me all of these messages from the beginning of the time, or start 600 messages ago and give me all those messages.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's you can start your subscription from the beginning of all the messages have been published, or if you reconnect it and then maybe you may have lost some messages during that reconnection, then you start once again from the last sequence number that you may have received.
That's nice. So in terms of Nats versus Nats streaming, what's the cost of the durability? How much throughput do you lose when you have to save messages?
So yeah, you get the performance is going to be very different, mostly because also the Nats streaming itself is on top of Nats. So Nats streaming is built, for example, with protocol buffers. It is using protocol buffers being transmitted on top of the Nats transport to be able to do the hacking and publishing of the messages. So by definition, it's always going to be less than performance than Nats itself. So yeah, there's definitely a cost there.
One of the things that really impresses me about Nats is how flexible it is. I was building a class this week on microservices with Go Micro. And one of the plugins for Go Micro is a transport layer plugin so that you can choose to use Nats as the entire transport for your microservice ecosystem. And it just amazed me that it was just that easy to write a couple hundred lines of Go code and substitute Nats for, RPC and, messaging. It's impressive how flexible Nats seems to be.
One of the things that I love about it is the number of platforms, because I think there's JavaScript implementations. I know I've seen like Arduino and things like that, so people can have IoT devices just push metrics out to NAT servers.
yeah, it's been very cool that how the community has been taking off since I think like maybe in some of the recent years. For a long time, there was only the Ruby, Node.js, and the Go clients. But yeah, now we have the C Sharp, C, and even Elixir clients. The Python clients, there are official now ones.
So is this mostly open source contributions, or does Apcera and the Nats team deliver most of these different libraries?
Yeah. We try to have official libraries as much as we can right now. I mean, it's a very small team, the Nats team. But yeah, for the more important languages, yeah, we try to have some off-the-shelf solutions. So there is there's many like from the community as well, even like a Perl clients. But yeah, it is all open source.
Yeah, an amazing amount of clients. I'm looking at the community contributed clients. There's .NET, Arduino, Elixir, Erlang, Haskell, Lua, MicroPython. I've never even heard of MicroPython. PHP, Perl, Python, Rust, Scala, Spring, Swift. That's impressive. It is a very broad platform.
Wow, I'm just looking through this. It's been forever since I've looked through some of the connectors and things like that. There's FluentD and Prometheus, and this is crazy. So I think it is about time for our first sponsor break. But when we come back, I want to talk about some of the use cases you've seen Nats used for, which would be really cool.
Okay.
So our first sponsor for today is Backtrace.
Software teams use Backtrace to take the headache and guesswork out of debugging across their environments. Backtrace jumps into action when your Go application fails by capturing detailed application state information, including the complete set of Go routines, channels and their wait durations, and my favorite, scheduler information. Backtrace analyzes this state and archives it in a centralized object store, allowing you to explore interesting patterns across your errors and plug rich error data into your resolution workflows. Backtrace is used by companies like Fastly, which is Changelog's bandwidth partner, Limelight Networks, Message Systems, AppNexus, and more. Head to backtrace.io/GoTime to learn more and start your free trial.
All right, so we are back talking with Wally about Nats. So just before the break, I was talking about kind of what some of the unique, or maybe not unique, but interesting use cases or large scale that you've seen Nats for. I know often it helps to put into perspective like example use cases.
So one that I'm very interested recently is the work from REPNR. He wrote the original like M collective for Puppet, and he was initially trying to prototype using the original Ruby client, but it was not thread safe, and so basically that's why we have a different one for Ruby. But he could manage to change the transport for the whole M collective to use it for Puppet on top of Nats. So yeah, it's a very ambitious project, and I'm following it. I think it's very cool to see like Nats replacing some other transport to make a system more faster. Or there's also the Clarify was using Nats streaming as well. So yeah, this is just from some of the contents that have been like published recently in the nats.io blog. I mean, there's a number of entries there.
Now, with just the amount of effort and the large nature of this project, my assumption is that Apcera also heavily uses it for some of their own infrastructure too.
Yes, of course. So yeah, the whole Apcera platform is written in Go. I mean, there's some C in some places, but that's part of the control plane, and we use it for the discovery from the components. So yeah, it's an essential piece of the architecture for the communication as well. And simple use cases like the service discovery of the who is talking within the system, and doing basic request response to starting the applications within the platform. So yeah, I mean, Nats is an essential piece of their architecture.
So we all end up loving when new Go releases come out because of the performance improvements. I can only imagine the difference when you guys do a new build there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we can get rid of half our servers now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a bit about alternative to Nats and what makes Nats a good choice for people?
So yeah, I would choose Nats when I want to have a low latency, for example, communications, and that is simple, right? So when you care a lot about the simplicity of deployment, maybe like having a lower cognitive overhead for thinking about your system and care a lot about the performance, yeah, that's where I would look for NATs, right? So yeah, for like this type of systems like the Apcera platform or Cloud Foundry, where you want to do basic communication and service discovery, I think it fits really well. The control plane use case, yeah.
And how about for systems that don't have so much demand? Is there any advantage in using something like NATs as well? For example, let's say I need messaging, but I'm not at the level of Cloud Foundry. I'm not that big of a system.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be an advantage for me to use NATs, or would NATs be overkill? Is there a point in which NATs would be overkill for a system?
Yeah, that's a very good use case when you it's definitely the opposite of overkill. It helps to have very simple solution for this type of communication. So you don't have to have very like huge platform to be able to rely on NATs. You just want to be able to have this low overhead solution. I think NATs fits really well because it's very simple, very small type of configuration, doesn't have any other dependencies. And yeah, it's easy to get running with NATs. So it's pretty lightweight.
Yeah, the NATs binary itself is tiny, and it uses very little RAM. It's amazing how much performance they're squeaking out of Go. That GopherCon talk from 2014 is a really good talk to watch. Derek Collison goes through pretty much all of the work that they did. And at that time in 2014, I think he was really proud of 1 million messages per second out of the Go client or the Go service. And after that, they did some more tuning and Go improved. And now I know they're well into 2+ million messages per second with NATs.
Yeah, so it has been getting faster since. Now we're like doing demos like around 11 million messages. Just for like the micro benchmarks. I mean, but yeah, for smaller type of payloads, it's around 11, 12 million messages per second.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So speaking of GopherCon talks,
yes,
you will be speaking at GopherCon. And I don't think we want to give away the secret sauce, but you want to give some kind of hints or background on kind of what your talk's going to be about?
So yeah, I mean, like the title of the talk is writing network clients in Go and about the designing and implementation, the NATs client. So I was motivated into doing this talk because Go, it's a very important piece of the success of NATs, right? And it is also the canonical implementation. So I really want to have something that really shows off how Go helps the NATs project get there. And that at the same time is like kind of like a reference implementation of how NATs protocol works and what are the reconnection logic that you have to follow in order to have a resilient client, and how do we do that with Go, right? So that's kind of the main goal of the talk. And so, yeah, I'm very looking forward to it.
It seems like Apcera is very community oriented. I noticed that they sponsor a lot of meetups and conferences, and the whole team seems to be very active in all of the communities that they participate in. Is that a culture that's deeply embedded in Apcera, or is that just the coincidence of my observations?
No, Apcera, I think it has been involved a lot especially with the Go community from the beginning. It's part of the culture of Apcera, I would say. From the community, we run a couple of the meetups as well for the SF microservices. So it could have been a coincidence, but no, I would say that we're very community oriented. Yeah,
that's cool.
I totally just lost my place.
Well, we had a lot of interesting projects and news come up this week. Do you want to move on to that, Eric?
Yeah.
So there's a big issue with the update of macOS to 10.12.4 and Xcode 8.3. And apparently, I'm not sure if I have this completely correct, but if you build a binary that has CGO enabled in one way or another, which might mean something as simple as an import of something that imports SQLite, the binary will fail with a killed 9 message. And I saw, I think it was Tuesday when the update came out, a lot of messages on Twitter, on the Go Slack, all over the place, people wondering what the heck was going on with these killed 9 messages. So if you are using Go and haven't yet updated to the latest Mac OS, hold off on that for a little bit. I know that there's going to be a fix. Well, actually, there's already a fix committed in Go's source repository, but there hasn't yet been a release of Go 1.8.1, but there will be shortly to fix that. So that's a big deal. It isn't often that operating systems break our programming language.
I already updated, but fortunately I develop off of Linux, so I never noticed.
I know. I updated too, and the day of the update, I had to do a remote teaching, so I just did it from Linux, and it was fine.
I'm terrible about the updates too. Whenever there's new stuff, I'm like, I want it now. I don't care what breaks. I'll figure it out.
Exactly.
So one of the other things too is, speaking of conferences and stuff, is Golang UK has their CFP open.
Oh.
So that will run until April 30th. So based on today's recording date, that's basically a month to get proposals in for anybody who would like to speak there.
I'm going to put a proposal in for that.
Yeah, that's a nice conference. I was there last year.
I still haven't made it. Have you been to any other Go conferences, Wally?
I've been to the meetups here in San Francisco, but conferences, not yet. GopherCon would be the first one. No, definitely I've been in GoCon. I was at the first GoCons, Go conferences from Japan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So actually, GoCon, it's a pun of an event for dating. So that's why it became the Go conference. And so yeah, it's very funny when you see like the hashtag GoCon, because it gets mixed with this. It's a very fun tweet live stream. And yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I was there in the GoCon from 2013, and then I met Dave Cheney on the next one. He was talking there. So yeah, I've been on those. But my first GopherCon would be like the one for this year.
Awesome. You're in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
It's going to be big.
All the other conferences are awesome, but my opinion's biased.
So speaking of GopherCon, we announced our workshops for the day before the conference this year, and those are all up on the website and available for sale. There are 6 workshops that have a variety of different topics. They are very low cost, and they have limited seating. So if you're looking for something to do the day before the conference, come into town early and get your learning on, because there's some really good workshops this year.
Yeah.
Go to gophercon.com/workshops and check them out.
I'm definitely doing one of those.
Spoken like a person who built that website.
So I've been really heads down the past week with some work stuff, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of projects that I thought were interesting, and that's mainly just because I haven't been looking. But one of them I did find was Go ERD, which is like entity relationship graphs, like using graphics to show dependencies and how they're kind of interrelated, which is actually really interesting to run on some of your code bases and kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Does it use the types and navigate through the AST, determining how the types relate to each other?
I'm not really sure how it's implemented, but Go has a lot of stuff in their standard library for parsing the abstract syntax tree and stuff. So I'm imagining it's just using the Go library for that.
Say abstract syntax tree 7 times fast.
Right? No wonder why people just call it AST for short.
Well, this looks really cool. I just pulled up the GitHub. That's awesome.
I saw that project and I think it's awesome. I'm always running a tool or another to produce ERDs, because I like to see, if I'm dealing with a database, I want to see all of the entities. And so definitely very cool to have that in Go.
I love it. That's really cool. I'm going to have to check that out. Oh, this is big. Vim Go 1.12 was released.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what the difference is because I always run off of master and update it every day because I just that way. So, so I couldn't tell you what's different between 1.11 and 1.12, but it's getting pretty darn amazing.
He keeps a very good and well organized changelog. It's in the repo somewhere.
So what's your editor of choice, Wally?
And it has to be Emacs.
Emacs, nice.
Emacs?
Yeah. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Big org mode person. So actually, if you push a .org document in GitHub, I'm maintaining Code's maintaining the library that's rendering to HTML.
Oh wow.
So what do Emacs users use that's kind of equivalent to Vim-Go? Is that just the normal stuff that's part of the Go repo, or?
No, there's a Go mode. Go mode written by Dominic Conef.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm good with the Go mode. Has integrated the Go FMT, Go imports.
I know this because I played with Emacs 2 or 3 weeks ago. I tried it for a day, and there's a lot of control going on there. Control this, control. I think somebody had some control issues.
I tried it years ago, only a little bit, but it's kind of hard because I think that there's value in learning things like Emacs and Vim, but once you've learned one, there's not as much value to switch, right? Like you gain so much efficiency from using either one of them. You're like, is it really going to be that much faster using the other one?
Well, it's all the demos of Emacs that make me still want to learn it. I know org mode is a really big deal, and Chase Adams, our longtime listener, hi Chase, keeps tweeting about how much fun he's having with Emacs, and he switched. So I don't know. I'm getting a little old to be learning new tricks. So let's face it.
Yeah, that's probably the bigger issue. Is like I need to get stuff done. So it's probably about time for our second sponsor break. Our second sponsor for today is the Ultimate Go Training Series. Our friends at Arden Labs offer some of the best training classes for Go, web, and data science folks. They've trained over 1,000 students from all over the world over the past 2 years. They offer corporate training in Go, web, and data science taught by Bill Kennedy, Daniel Whitenack, and John Gossett. Bill wrote the Go in Action book, and all three have given talks at conferences and events all over the world. They offer 2 and 3 full-day intensive courses that literally take any developer to a whole new level. The classes teach specification, implementation, mechanics, guidelines, and best practices with a lot of personal experience. They also provide a high-energy environment to keep those involved excited and focused throughout the class. Even your most experienced developers will get something out of every class. To learn more, head to ardenlabs.com/GoTime and tell them Eric from GoTime sent you. All right, we are back talking to Wally Quevedo from Apcera. So we're going through kind of projects, news. Anybody else have any other projects they wanted to talk about, or?
Yeah, I wanted to mention Nate Finch's blog post about his 3.5 years at Canonical and 500,000 lines of Go codes as part of the Juju project.
That was a great post.
Wasn't it? Yeah, it's really interesting. He goes into different categories of things. For example, package management, project organization, and testing, error handling. It's a very good read.
It really was. And probably, there aren't that many projects at that sort of scale where you can get a view of that project from the outside without a non-disclosure agreement. So it's neat to see somebody intimate with that project talk about it so well.
Yeah, so actually, Nats has probably been around that long too.
Did you just mansplain us? Actually. Yep.
I think it was more like where is Nat's blog post about the 3.5 years of Go usage?
Well, there's a blog post on Gopher Academy, blog.gopheracademy.com. I think I even dropped it in the Slack about Nats and Go and Ruby. They've been, I did. High performance cloud native messaging written in Go.
How long have you been working on Nats, Wally?
So I think since I joined Apcera, that's a couple of years ago.
It'd be interesting to hear kind of how Apcera's platform and Nats has evolved over that period of time too.
Yeah, that would be cool to summarize.
We'll tap Derek on the shoulder. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey.
Cough, cough.
Because I mean, some of that stuff has had to have changed quite a bit. We don't think about it as much from release to release, but when you start thinking back 3-4 years, the things that have changed just in the idioms and the way we do things is actually really interesting. So, like, I can't even remember vendoring back then. Like now, it seems to be all we talk about. But 4 years ago, it was just we were happy to have Go. We didn't care.
You know why we didn't care about vendoring? Because there were no packages back then.
That's
We all
true.
had to write our own. When I was a kid, we didn't have external packages. We had to write our own.
Yeah, there was very little outside of like database libraries and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think originally also Derek wrote his own hash implementation.
He did.
They
Yeah.
have been, he had, because the built-in was not as performant. So yeah, he wrote his own for a while, and they have since been replaced and with what is in this part of the standard library. But yeah, for a while during the evolution from Nats, they had their own hash maps.
I want to say he talked about that in his GopherCon talk in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't watched it since 2014, but I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's there. It should be there.
Yeah, that whole GopherCon thing was kind of a blur our first year.
I think they're all a blur. I think life since the first one is a blur. So, did anybody else have anything they want to talk about? I didn't see any projects this week. Just been so heads down.
I don't have anything else. I mean, I do have a bunch. There's so many things,
Okay.
but that's it.
You guys want to do Free Software Friday? Being that Brian has a birthday today.
I do.
Well, it's not your birthday, but
No, my daughter's birthday. Lauren's 12. Hi, Lauren. I'll make her listen to this.
is she listening? Does
No.
she listen?
No, she never listens. She doesn't care about Go. The kids these days are making slime. She's 12, and that's the thing. They make slime out of borax and lotion and something else, and it's just this slimy stuff. And that's all she does. Every time I turn around, I'm like, "Where'd that bottle of lotion go?" And it's gone.
Hey, see, you gave me a hard time a few episodes ago because I started talking about oobleck, and here they are making slime. Tell them to make oobleck.
I don't think it's that much different.
Well, the oobleck, the cool thing about making that is that it, when you hit it with a lot of force, it becomes like extremely solid. So you could run across it and things like that, but then it's just goo when there's not a lot of force applied.
So every vessel in my house that could contain slime is full of slime. all the mason jars, all of my Tupperware gone, full of slime. Yeah. Happy birthday, Lauren.
What do you mean slime? I don't want to derail us, but what?
It's I don't even know how to. It's almost like silly putty but thinner, and they make it out of common household stuff, detergent and shaving cream and glue and lotion.
But what for? Just for fun? Just for the fun of making it?
Yeah, there's absolutely no purpose behind it, which is why I know that this is a fad that will die soon, because there's nothing to do with the slime once you've made it, except put it in Dad's mason jars. So I'm looking forward to that going away.
Gotcha. It's hilarious.
I don't even remember where did we? Oh, that's right. That's our hard stop. And I've been talking about it for 5 minutes. So yeah, I got to go pick up a birthday cake. So Free Software Friday. Let's hit that. I've got a Free Software Friday that I've mentioned before, but I'm going to mention it again because it is just that awesome. I spent the week building my class on Go Micro for microservices. And every time I turn over a rock, there is some other really thoughtful, amazing feature in Go Micro that I was so surprised this week. Every time I turned around, there was some other really cool piece of Go Micro that just blew me away. I built a microservice for authentication, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to be able to call this from the web, so I'm going to have to build some sort of proxy. Oh no, you don't have to build a proxy. Just type micro API, and it builds an API proxy for you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I think you've got like Go framework ADHD.
I do not. Every framework has its place. I still love Goa. And the nice thing about Goa and Micro is that they're both converging on gRPC. So very, very soon as Goa 2.0 is released, I think there's going to be a mashup between the two of them that allows me to declare my microservices in Go as DSL. And that's going to be killer.
Something interesting too is how much gRPC is taking over communication now. etcd and Kubernetes and all that are all gRPC now.
Yep. Agreed.
What's the messaging in NATS, Wally? How do you communicate with NATS? Is that just straight HTTP, or is that using some sort of RPC library?
I just bear TCP. Yeah, it's a plain text protocol.
Yep, just TCP.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the. Okay. It's very cool, simple, small TCP plain text protocol.
That's what makes it so fast.
Uh-huh.
How about you, Alicia?
I don't have one today.
Give a shout out to your editor.
I've been using VS Code.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, VS Code looks really cool. If I wasn't so chained to Vim.
Code has a pretty good Vim mode.
Yeah.
I know I need to try it, but it's one of those when you're busy, that's the hardest time to do it.
I've been having some hiccups, like when I try to go to insert mode, I pressed I and I have to press it like twice and it doesn't.
See, Carlicia just gave me the reason why I don't need to try it.
I press I once and I start typing, and then I realize, it didn't go to insert mode. That kind of makes me mad.
There's a handful of different Vim plugins. Just try swapping one.
Good.
I'll shoot you a message later and open mine and figure out which one I'm using, because the one I'm using is rock solid.
Nice, thank you, because this is driving me mad.
Got to figure out how I can find those plugins, though.
But I love being able to so quickly navigate through like the source code, up and down, back and forth.
So I think you added something to our doc, Wally, but yeah, every week we try to give a shout out to just a project or maintainer or group of people that are making our lives easier in the open source world. Did you have a project you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this project. It's actually from a friend, Nakashima-san. He made these very small utilities in Go, and we use this one for releasing NATS, and it's named GHR. It basically uploads the artifacts from the build into the GitHub release page. It's very simple, very small. But yeah, I think it's a cool utility.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Eliminates creating a bunch of scripts for stuff.
Star added.
Right.
So we use it for releasing the binaries.
Very cool.
So, and for me, it's nothing new. I've thanked them in related projects a number of times, but Kubernetes, I've been shoulder deep in Kubernetes a lot lately. So, but just some of the problems that are run into and things are usually pretty easily solved. So, and every release just seems to add more and more cool stuff. So, huge shout out to all of those guys.
They're right in the middle of KubeCon in Berlin too. My whole Twitter stream is just nothing but FOMO. Every time I turn around, it's, oh, look at that great talk I'm missing. Oh, look at that great talk I'm missing. Damn it.
Yeah, and then I get people who message me too. Are you at KubeCon? No. I'm doing work.
No.
So look at that. We're going to end perfectly on time for you, Brian.
That's awesome, because I got to go get that cake.
All right. So with that, let's wrap this thing up so Brian can get to cake and then cleaning up slime.
All slime all the time.
Wait till midnight. It's not your birthday anymore. Get to cleaning. All right. So huge thank you to everybody for being on the show, especially Wally. Thanks for coming on and chatting about NATS with us.
Thanks to you guys for inviting me.
Thanks for coming, Wally.
Super cool. Thank you to all the listeners, both now live and everybody who will be listening to this once it is released. Huge shout out to our sponsors, Backtrace and Ultimate Go. Without them, there would be no podcast. If you want to subscribe, the best way to do so is to go to gotime.fm. Definitely recommend us to friends, family, coworkers. Follow us on Twitter at gotimefm. And if you want to be on the show or have suggestions for topics or guests for the show, you can hit us up on github.com/gotimefm/ping. And if I didn't forget anything, I think that's it. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you, Wally. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Go Time. Tune in live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time. Head to changelog.com/community. Follow us on Twitter. We're at GoTimeFM. Special thanks to Backtrace and Ultimate Go for sponsoring this show. Also, thanks to Fastly, our bandwidth partner. Head to fastly.com to learn more. This episode was edited by Jonathan Youngblood, and the theme music for Go Time is produced by Breakmaster Cylinder. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for listening.